Hello folks, my name is Richard and welcome to this photo editing walkthrough. Macphun software released a new version of Luminar a couple of days ago. Rather than walk you through every new feature, I'm going to edit a photograph from start to finish. I took this photograph a few years back during my trip to Laos with Nikon D700 and 24-70 zoom. First, let's have a look at the image and work out what needs to be done. First thing is her hand that is creeping in the bottom left corner. I don't really want to crop the image. I like the composition as it is. So let's get on with the editing. I pick the clone stamp tool and carefully paint out the hand in the bottom left corner. The new feature in Luminar is a handy brush history that is built in the clone stamp tool. With this done, let's begin with the basic tone adjustments. First I want to mention the new Quick and Awesome Workspace. It features a brand new accent AI filter that analyzes the image and uses artificial intelligence to make adjustments. You can give it a try and see where it takes you. I personally prefer to make my own decisions, so I start my editing with basic tone and color temperature adjustments. Next filter I add to the stack is HSL filter. This is the one where I'm going to do the heavy lifting when it comes to the background. At the moment, the upper half is too saturated and much darker than the lower part. As you can see, I'm pulling saturation of the greens and I'm also shifting them more towards yellows. You can see me go back and forth between HSL and tone adjustments. All I'm doing is try to balance the image to my liking. The next thing I want to address are her eyes. I find them a little too dark at the moment. I create a new adjustment layer and add exposure filter to it. I crank it up quite high, but I'm only concerned about how the eyes look. Then I use the brush tool and paint the mask only on the iris. I think this change brings a little bit more light into her eyes. With this done, my next step is adding a little more dimensionality to her face. I am again adding a new adjustment layer with an increased exposure. Then with big soft brush and with low opacity I paint the highlight areas. I want this change to be very subtle. I wish the Luminar brush tool worked also with flow, not just with opacity. With opacity only it is very tricky to paint a smooth transition, even with a soft brush. I pointed this out a few years back when I looked at Tonality Pro, Macphun's black and white conversion software. I link the article in the description. Then I repeat exactly same steps, but this time with darker exposure, and I'm painting in the shadows. Of course this happens on a new adjustment layer. I'm quite pleased where the image is going. The faces nicely stand out, and that saturated green in the background is successfully muted into a more pleasing tone. I'm constantly flipping off the filter to see how the change affects the photograph. In the next step I add a little bit of sharpening, not to the whole image though. I put a Sharpen filter on its own adjustment layer so I can paint the effects into areas I want to sharpen. And those are her eyes, eyebrows, lips and hair. There is a masking slider on the filter, but I haven't found a way how to preview it in a similar fashion as in Lightroom. Even at this stage, I'm still going back and forth between all the adjustments and making small changes. I like to add vignette to my photographs. Of course, Luminar has built-in vignette filter. In the new version, it allows to place the center anywhere on the image. It has pre- and post-crop vignetting as well. But in this instance, I need a little bit more control over the shape, placement and orientation. So I went for a custom radial mask instead. On the new adjustment layer I add exposure filter and darken the image significantly. I add a radial masking tool and adjust the size and shape and orientation. I want the faces to be brighter than everything else, so my radial mask shape is an oval and in diagonal direction. Once I'm happy with the placement, I back off the exposure. Again, I want to keep it subtle. I'm flipping the vignette on and off and adjusting the exposure until I'm happy. I'm flipping before and after switch to see the original edited version of the image. I still want to do a black and white conversion. There is a black and white conversion filter in Luminar, but since I own the Creative Kit package, I will take advantage of Tonality Pro. I click on the plugin icon on the bar screen right and get the drop-down menu for all Creative Kit plugins. However, this only works when using the standalone version of Luminar. Here is the photo opened in Tonality Pro, Macphun's black and white conversion software. Remember, I wanted to make a background a little softer. I can use lens blur and microstructure for this purpose. Tonality also supports layer editing. I am softening the background with these two sliders. Then I'm using the brush to paint a mask only for the background. I am trying to do it in a way that is not noticeable for somebody who looks at the picture for the first time. The last two adjustments I'm making is a subtle split toning, vignette, and at the very end I add a very soft grain to the image. When ready, I hit apply and converted image is rendered as a new image layer in Luminar. At this point I have color and black and white version. The very last thing I want to try, and I'm not even sure if it will work for this particular image, is to combine the two versions. I'm keeping the layer transfer mode in normal and I'm lowering the opacity. I add one more adjustment layer below with saturation. I just bump it up a little bit. And here is the final result. I hope you like it.